Testing. 1, 2. Just making sure this microphone works. Just about 5 minutes now. We'll get started. A little less, actually. Yes, Martin Crockett, mic check. Gotta check the microphone. About another minute now. All right, almost ready to go now. Just a few more seconds and we'll start the opening. All right, here we go. Oh, and we're back. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to my show, my production basic show. My name is Abe Duque. I am here every Friday at 343 TV at 1 p.m., taking you through all the cool things that I. If you'd like, come visit us every day at 1 except for Sundays, and you could see a show similar to mine. Monday through Saturday, we have shows covering everything from production, sound design, mixing and mastering, all sorts of things. And if you like what you see here on this show and on this channel, maybe you can go and check out our website and see our classes, because we run a school called 343 Labs. We have locations in Berlin and in New York City, and of course on the internet. We have classes starting all the time, 343labs.com. Anyway, there's Max Wild is here. Let's see who else. Martin Crockett. I saw Simple Sam somewhere in there saying some stuff. People are making jokes. And let's see. Okay, so let's get going. Let's get right into it. I have a lot that I want to talk about today. I wanted to pick up on where we left off last week. I've been doing kind of these three show kind of three episode sort of sagas or trilogies of types of classes. I think we started with gear, and then we got into another topic, and now we're in the maybe mastering type of topic. Last week I kind of just mastered a track from scratch, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about the mastering process. I wanted to offer today. I'm calling this class, or this stream, which is to me like a class, I'm calling it Alternative Mastering Techniques. So last week I took you through a comprehensive, sort of very easy to understand why chain that went, kind of a series of plugins that went from reductive EQ to initial compression to maybe some enhancements with enhancer EQ and maybe some saturation, and then ended up in maybe some imaging, stereo imaging, and finalized it with a bit of bus compression and final limiting. And that was kind of the simple version of a mastering chain. And this is the type of mastering chain that I would generally execute when somebody's sending me material, especially if I don't know the person. And of course I'm going to ask for tons of reference tracks when I get a track to master, because if I need to get into the person's head. But once I know what the person wants, this is the type of thing that I would usually do with my mastering chain, because it is just about controlling what they have, enhancing it a bit, and then kind of making it maximized for the platform that they're shooting for, whether it be for streaming, or whether it be for downloads, or whether it be for a CD pressing, or not that anybody does CD pressing these days, or a vinyl pressing, but I wouldn't get creative with it, and hopefully I also wouldn't have to do too much damage control with it. Now, the problem is that a lot of the times when I get these masters, I'm presented with mixes that are not the best. They are, they have all sorts of interesting problems to them. And I end up having to use techniques that maybe I didn't cover too much last week, which are really all about damage control. It's all about taking care of what has happened and kind of reining it in with the limited tools or dimensions that I have with a two-track master. When people take my mastering or mixing and mastering classes, I usually really emphasize how I believe that the mixing process needs to kind of meld into the mastering process, meaning that you mix and you mix and you mix, and then about 80% through the mix, you start to implement a bit of the mastering chain to see how things are going to react in the mastering chain, and change how the sounds are going to react and change into the mastering chain. Because a lot of the time you get to the mastering section of the of the track, and you realize things have to change in the mix. But when you get sent a master, you don't have the option of like doing that. You just don't have the there's no nothing you could do but just work with what you have. When you're mixing your own or mastering your own record that you've mixed, or you have access to the whole process back and forth, you could say, oh, these vocals appear now to be super loud in my master. Maybe I need to bring them back a bit or take the reverb down a bit. Well, then you go to the mix, you do that, and then you keep on going in the master. But what happens in a lot of the times when you're a mastering engineer is that you get a track to master and you end up having to perform damage control. So there are techniques that we can use for both damage control, and then also I mentioned creative mastering, which means using the mastering process to do fun things with your track, or sort of depending heavily on the mastering process to give you a dimension in the track that you didn't achieve in the mix. This happens a lot in EDM and dance music, where they'll use things like the OTT and multi-band processing or multi-band compression to deal with different aspects of the mix, and do it post the mix, meaning in the master. And this is totally valid, but the problem is you can't really pull that stuff on somebody that sends you something to master, and you can't do all sorts of crazy things that you can do with creative mastering techniques to that, because they might just be very annoyed at you and fire you as their engineer. So we're going to run through some of those things today. I wanted to, before we go on though, I wanted to, let's see. I had some questions. I've been asking you guys to send in questions. I've been asking you guys to write in the comments also for some maybe topics that you want me to cover. Continue to do that. But I got a couple of questions throughout the week, and I want to kind of answer them now and see maybe we can, maybe I can get you an answer for that. So I got one from Eric from Colorado Springs, who says, I noticed that you use many special plugins in your mastering chain. I looked some of them up, and they were not cheap. Can you get the same or similar results with stock effects? Similar, but not the same, obviously. What happens with the fancy stuff, the more expensive plugins, the ones that you have to get that are beyond the DAW that you might be working with, is that you can access specialized tools that are meant to do just a little bit more. I like to equate it to like owning a mechanic shop or being a shade tree mechanic, meaning you like to tinker around with your car and you buy a few tools. You got a good amount of tools, but they're basic good tools, and you can do almost any job, let's say in your garage or whatever. But at one point you'll get into a situation where you just need that very specialized tool that you don't have. Professional mechanics have these tools in their shops, and they might not use them on a daily basis, or maybe they would, but they can take advantage of of their professional tools, since they are professionals. It is an investment for them, but the truth is that they are professionals, and being the professionals that they are, they need to kind of put a little bit of investment into it, and that's what happens with these plugins. You can do so much with the DAW stock plugins, but at a certain point, you might have to reach for something else. Now, with that said, there's plenty you can do inside of DAW. If I would have been presented, and I always say this, so if you heard me say this before, I always say that if somebody went back in the time machine to like the late 80s when I was trying to make music, at first, and showed me a laptop with, just something like Ableton or Logic or something in it, I would have died just to see the power, the raw power that you have inside of these devices. I mean, inside of these computers. You basically had a better studio than most studios that existed at the time. So with that said, it's very relative. It's a very relative thing to what's going on. Meaning today, we can get a lot out of what our plugins give us, but I mean, our built-in plugins or stock native devices inside of our DAWs will give us. But extra plugins, well, they do a little bit. But let's go to Ableton, and I got the same track from last week in here, and what I want to do is I want to try to maybe do a little bit of treatment with only stock plugins, just to show you that you can. So you saw the chain that we had last week, and if you want, we have the videos posted on 343 TV's channel. You can watch the video of me performing kind of a mastering chain that we created. I say performing, but meaning implementing or creating. But now I'm gonna just grab some of the stock stuff and do it from there. So we started, and I told you last week, the first thing you always think about whenever you're mixing or even mastering a track is reductive EQ. Reductive EQ is going to be the first thing that will always be implemented. So reductive EQ begins, and I told you that I like to consider 4 things. And one thing is that I like to put my low frequencies or my subs in mono. So I'm going to take immediately a utility and drop it in here. And this Ableton utility lets me take the bass and put it in mono. And I got it set to 120 hertz. And I can do that with a mid-side EQ as well if I needed to, meaning I would take it and put it in side mode and roll off everything under 120 hertz. So here's a track from last week. And basically, you might not really hear anything with this bass mono setup, but it really does make a difference for when you start to play it on dance floors, and you're basically trying to prevent the low end from phasing. For that, the Fab Filter EQ does have a little more to give than the Ableton EQ does. I remember Ableton 9. In Ableton 9, you would have an EQ that would only let you go down to, I think, 30 hertz. That was ridiculously bad, where Ableton's EQ could only go down to 30 hertz. Now they went down to, so 15 dB boost is the maximum here. And what you get in, say, a Fab Filter is going to be a lot more than 15 dB boost. But hey, not only that, the sound of the boost is going to be a lot better and a lot more precise and sweeter in something like a Fab Filter EQ. But okay, we have this. If you're using Ableton's EQ, by the way, make sure you put it in oversampling mode. Oversampling mode is kind of like high quality mode. You can just right click on here and check the oversampling on there. Make sure that's on there. Anyway, so what I did next is look for resonance. So I'm going to just try to find some resonance here. And basically, when looking for resonance, what I'm doing is raising one of these bells and swinging them around and looking for frequencies that ring, basically. And if you were here last week, or if you watched the video from last week, I was able to find plenty of resonances really easily. And here it's just becoming very hard to narrow down the resonance. So generally speaking, the Ableton EQ is good for reductive. So I can't find much. Okay, that's a kind of a boxy frequency. So let's take that and take it out. And okay, so I don't want to belabor. I don't want to spend the whole session remastering this track with stock plugins. I just wanted to show you what you can do. Now, so the next step would be, last week I used a de-esser to find any sibilants in here. And the problem is Ableton does not have a de-esser. There is no de-esser in Ableton. So what can we do about that? Not much. We could try to figure out how to control sibilants in one way or another, but Can't do much with that. So other than that, okay, then I want to add some maybe initial bus compression. The good thing in Ableton, and I know that not everybody uses Ableton. Some people are using Bitwig, some people are using Logic, but you have some comparable stuff in all the DAWs to what might be known as a um, a vintage style EQ. I mean, not EQ, compressor. So in Ableton, it's called the glue compressor. So I'll just drop that in there. Martin Crockett's talking about Pro Q having a range between 30 and 30 plus and 30 minus dB, and that's a lot more than Ableton's can offer. And it also, even at 15, the sound is much more precise. There's just not enough precision in the additive part of this EQ. Not to say it's not adequate. It's pretty good for whatever, but it's not, the fancy tool. So this thing here, though, this is made by Cytomic. This thing is really good. This is a compressor that has been run up against others. This is an SSL bus series, G series compressor, bus compressor, and this compressor has been compared to like SSLs from Waves and the one in the UAD, and actually the Cytomic one actually has edged out, has won against all the other ones. So it's actually a pretty good thing in Ableton. So you can use that. So we can get some bus compression going in here. Add some makeup to make up for gain reduction there. And now, I want to do some enhansive. Now, I don't have any vintage style, EQs that I could add in here, so not going to do much about that. Maybe now I can just drop a limiter in here. So let's go back to the dynamics part of it and drop a limiter in there. And then, you have the limiters, the modern limiters are all about look ahead, right? So the Ableton limiter has a 1.5, 3 millisecond, and 6 millisecond look ahead. The look ahead lets the compressor, or the limiter, which is beyond the compressor, look ahead of time and sort of set itself up so that it could kind of do its thing. It's a decent limiter. It's not horrible. It actually is okay. So you could actually push it, set a ceiling of negative 0.30, and get a decent preparation of a track going. I mean, it's not. I wouldn't say it's a master track, but it's a decent, say, bus treatment. So let's see. Let's compare that. AB with it on and off. So it's obviously louder with it on there because the limiter is going to bring up the level, but it's also a little more put together sound. The relationship between the sounds in the mix sound a little different. It's got this more packaged together feeling that you can get from that. So yes, you can do something with the stock plugins, but you need to go beyond that if you want to go a little bit further. Samantha from Brooklyn asks, how long does it take to learn how to master? I tried to repeat what you did after watching last week's show, and I was lost. I'm so sorry about that. I kind of just, I've been doing these things, I've been mastering for a while, and I've been teaching mastering for a while as well. And so these things kind of just become second nature to me, and I walk through them really fast, and I drop them in there, and it might look a little bit easier than it should look. Not that it should look hard at all, but the truth is I could understand being a little bit confused and a little bit insecure and not confident about what to put, how much to put, and so on and so forth. It does take a knack. You do have to spend time, playing and doing it often, and then you start to get more confidence built up. But if you really want to see what this is all about, maybe you should come and take a class with me, because in my classes I go through the mastering process, and I really, we spend 4 long sessions on just this, where we kind of hone the whole process, and you watch me master, you do a bit of it, we go back and forth, and I'll hold your hand and so on, and spoon feed you the information. So maybe you should come and check out our website and take a class with us. Anyway, you can learn, but of course it's, after watching one hour show with me last week, it's not really guaranteed that you're going to become the new mastering engineer of the century. Anyway, let's go on to some other things. So let me bring this chain back, and I'm going to keep what I have in there as a basis, but I'm not going to pump the limiter so much. So I want to keep myself some headroom. And then I'm just going to hide this bit of the chain here to the side. So I wanted to start with a few things. I have a whole list of things that I want to get through and see how far I get through it. Maybe I'll continue some next week. So we can use now the mastering process in a way that that we maybe could make up for what we didn't do in the mix or couldn't do in the mix. So I'm going to start with the first process that I wanted to detail here, which is called the emphasis-de-emphasis technique. Emphasis-de-emphasis technique refers to, it goes back to vinyl, and it was created for vinyl mastering. There's a situation in vinyl where towards the end of the cut, the frequencies change. It starts to get harder to keep the high frequencies going. And that also happens with the speed of the cut, whether it's 45 or 33, and the width of the groove that you make. But regardless, this idea of the emphasis and de-emphasis style or technique in mastering came about from there. And the idea is basically to use EQs to emphasize a particular part of the frequency spectrum, and then saturate it or put it through another process going. Let's see. William Mindreader says maybe Abe will explain that look ahead. As I said, look ahead is basically literally being able to look ahead in time and be able to say, hey, my this is coming down the pipeline, and the limiter can adjust itself so that it doesn't distort. If it doesn't have to be more reactive than it is actually, then it has to be. Imagine you could be able to set itself up for that eventuality, which is pretty awesome if you think about it. It's super awesome. Anyway, let's let me continue here with the emphasis and de-emphasis. So I'm going to grab, I'll do it with Ableton's EQ just to keep on using the stock stuff. So I'm going to grab Ableton's EQ, and in this case, let's see when this is playing. Let's see where the guitars are going. So there's some guitar going here, and I'm going to find the frequency where guitars are really happening. Say right around there. So I'm going to take that and emphasize that frequency. Now, this is not the way it was mixed. The mix was, with this frequency flat, and I'm boasting like, let's see what I can do here. The thermionic culture vulture. That's a nice one. And I'll drop the thermionic culture vulture in there. And this is a dedicated saturator. So I'm going to saturate, I'm going to drive that, and what's going to happen is this culture vulture is going to receive the sound with this frequency exaggerated. So it's going to work harder at this frequency, part of the frequency. And I'm going to drive it. So I'm going to get a little less going here in this gain. I don't want to blow it out of the water. So I'm going to drive it. Get that saturated. Get that well and saturated. And then once that has run through the thermionic culture vulture with this frequency emphasized. I'm going to take and copy this EQ, drop it on the other side of it, and de-emphasize it. Now on the way up, I had on the first one I had 8.55 of emphasis, and on the way down 8.5. Come on, let me get there. 5.7. So it's almost the same. It's just a very small amount different. So now what's going to happen is this runs through with an emphasized frequency that is going to get more saturation, and then this is going to de-emphasize that same frequency so that we kind of end up with the same basic level that we had before, but with changed audio. The audio has become completely different. So let's so now this is the result. Let's put this together and let's A/B that. So very emphasized saturation. Of course, the saturation is going to be add a little more gain here. So let's take that down a bit. Let's get that guitar area. Just want to find where the guitar might be killing it. So emphasizing, adding the saturation, de-emphasizing. And you could hear the saturation not take over, but totally change the nature of this whole track altogether. And we could do this at, we could add a lot more if we want, more emphasis. Let's go to 10, and we'll de-emphasize by 10 as well. But just this part of the frequency spectrum is going to be getting a little more saturation and changing a little more than that. So that's emphasizing and de-emphasizing style processing. Okay, let's keep moving. It's about halfway point now. My name is Abe Duque. I'm here at 343 TV. We stream every day except for Sundays at 1 p.m. We talk to you about everything to do with production, sound design, mixing, and mastering, any DAW you want. We just kind of talk about it, same as we do in our school, 343 Labs, and to come to our website, check out our school, 343labs.com. We have classes starting all the time. Check out a class, come in there, talk to us in person, get this happening just between you and me or any other instructor that you might see doing what we do here. All our streamers are instructors, so you'd be, if you sign up for a class, you'd be signing up for a stream. You'd be signing up with those that you see streaming as well. All right, let's go to the chat a little while, see what's going on. Can I do this emphasis with the sub frequency? Yeah, you could do it with. Pablo asks, Andre Carraro. Can you do the emphasis with my sub frequencies? Yes, you can. You can do it with anything you'd like. It's where you think you need the saturation. It's kind of very, very specific way of adding saturation to the frequency spectrum. Let's see what else is having there. Okay, people are talking about other things, so I don't want to. People are talking about the weather in Europe, I guess, at this point. Okay, so let's keep going. Oh, Simple Sam says, nice vocals. Yes, this is a track that I did together with Neon Jesus, who I'm producing. His album's coming out very soon. This is a track we did live together. He did the guitars, and I did the singing, and I did the kind of synths and everything. We all did it kind of just one take, which was kind of a miracle track. It doesn't always work out when you do one take. Anyway, let's keep going. Let's move to, by the way, we have a giveaway this week. The giveaway is going to be a what was it? One of the master sessions, the pro sessions. Sorry, the pro sessions of your choice. So we have these pro sessions coming up that we do. We've been doing these for a while now, where established artists come in and show people how they make their sausage, meaning how the sausage is made is what I meant. How their secret sauce, and then you can you ask them questions and watch their whole process and get an insight on what they're doing. Anyway, let's keep going because I want to really get through a few of these other ones. So another thing that allows us to work on the track in a way that's not exactly a linear way like we did last time is to just deal with like parallel compression. Now, parallel compression. Now, last week we did compression. We didn't do it in parallel. We just did it kind of straight through. And we used, subtle settings for the compressors. We didn't, especially with the first one, we used a very slow attack and very fast release so that it really wasn't about compressing as much as it was about putting it through its coloring or its sonic hug, as Daniel Wyatt might have said once. But what we want to do with parallel compression is maybe add a more aggressive form of compression that we can blend together with the sound that we have now. So the thing is, you have like sometimes you have a situation where you want it to take on a certain reaction from a compressor. And then you add compression, and this could be another device as well. But you add compression, and then now it picks up what you wanted it to get, but it loses something that it had before, and there's no way to win. So with parallel compression, you could basically have your cake and eat it too. That's basically what it's all about. It's about having your cake and eating it too. So what you do is you get a very aggressive sort of setting with your compression, and then are able to blend it in with the original. So for that, there's a couple of ways of doing it. If your compressor has a dry wet knob, it's a very easy thing to do. So let's see, Ableton's basic compressor has a dry wet knob on it. So I can run it through compression. Let's keep it wet for now. Let's add a very strong ratio and a very fast attack and a little bit of a slower release there. Let's get that threshold where is the trigger where the compression should begin all the way down. So this thing is kicking. Let's do some makeup gain. So now this is another track somehow. It's changed. What we had before was this, and what we have with the compressor is that. Maybe we'll go even a little more radical with it, and we'll do that. And so what we have now with a radical compression setting is this, and before we had that, and this was more organic sounding. It had more, the transients are cutting through better, meaning the beginnings of the tips of the sound are cutting through better. But this has some other properties to it that's also very nice. So the way we're going to use it then is just dry wet. Just blend it together until you get a nice combination of both.
Hey mama, where you been? Father's in the kitchen.
So you don't lose much of the original. But you do gain something that wasn't there before. And now there's a lot to discuss when it comes to parallel compression. I'm just trying to rush through these things, kind of give you an idea of what the techniques are. You guys are in, if you guys come and take a class with me in the mixing and mastering classes that I give, we spend a lot of time trying to experiment with all these techniques and what's better for this, what's better for bass, what's better for that, for vocals, what's better for whatever. We just don't have the time to get into it in this stream now, but hopefully you get an idea of what you can be trying out here. So William Mind Readers is reading my mind because the next thing we're going to be doing is New York compression. So it's a variation. It's a takeoff of this, which is he says it was a game changer for me. And it is a complete game changer. So this is the basic version of parallel compression, right? New York compression is like this, but all the way out. And it could get as crazy as you wanted to get it. Matter of fact, let's do it now. Let's create a crazy New York style compression, and let's go overboard with it. So let's in order to do that, we're gonna need an EQ to start with. So we need an EQ, and in this EQ, we need to set some really weird settings. You're gonna be like, "What? Why are you doing this?" We're gonna grab a bunch of these because this is the only way I could really know how to do this quickly. A bunch of these bells, and we're going to just kind of set them up alongside here and just open up these cues here so that we make big holes is what we're making. Big giant holes here. And let's see what we do about this cue here. And maybe we'll take that one out. And basically, I just want to keep the very low end and the very high end. And I want to make a big hole in the middle. That's what I want to do. Just a big hole in the middle. And now I want to take a compressor. Now we could do this with anything, but we're going to try to let's stick to the stuff in the box. Let's grab the Ableton compressor. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this compressor and jam it in a way where I don't want side chaining. We're gonna set the very fast attack. We're gonna set a slow release and very high ratio. 12 is fine, and a very low threshold. And we'll deal with. Let's leave it in RMS for now. See how that works. And so we're getting this kind of weird, very compressed version of the track with no mid-range in it, just high and low frequencies compressed. Let's try to see what happens in peak. Kind of like what the RMS is doing better, actually. And that's going to be the. That's it. That's New York compression. No, it's not. You have to do the blending thing. So in order to blend it, I'm going to take this and put it in a rack and then make another chain here. And this chain in Ableton, and you could do these similar things. I don't know about Logic too much, but I'm not sure that you could do this so easily in Logic. But in Bitwig, for example, you could do this very, very easily. Actually, it's a little bit better setup for this. This chain here, this is basically the original audio passing through. So when the sound gets here, the sound gets to split into these two chains. And if I turn this one off, then it's just going to be the original sound. But if I turn this one off, there's no sound. But I turn this one on, and then that's the crazy chain that I made with the mid-range taken out and the heavy compression of it. Some more compression. Let's squash the living daylights out of this thing. But now I'm going to take this one and lower it all the way and put the other one back. And slowly start to blend it in. With the original. And so let me show you what that sounds like without it. Whoa, it just went flat. It has no life anymore. Now with it. And now, mind you, this is a very, very exaggerated version of New York compression. But hey, why not, right? But listen to the difference. Like, so this is with that that chain on there, and this is without it. And why does this work? What's happening in here that's making it so cool? Well, what's happening is that you're getting this compressed version of that has no mids, only low and high frequencies compressed like crazy, which is a super caricature of the original. It just becomes this like very low, boomy, sort of tight end, and very high, very tight, put together high frequencies. And that, when you blend it in with the original, adds this bottom kind of anchoring and this high frequency kind of sheen to that. Simple Sam is asking about New Jersey compression. Please, please tell me what you mean by that. So that's going to be, and on certain tracks, I mean, we could try this without the original chain. On certain tracks, this is going to be a lot more significant than on others. But on all tracks, it just kind of... And the reason I stay away from... I don't really like to harp on this technique too much. I don't like to teach it even in classes so much. Or, I mean, we'll talk about it and I'll go through it. But I don't like to emphasize too much on it. It's just because it is a one-trick pony, and a lot of people think that this could be the whole... kind of basis for mastering a track. Maybe, but it really is kind of a very lazy way of going about trying to master a track. It does yield very good results, and you should be aware of this and use it as much as you can, or should, but don't depend on it 100%. So Fleet asks, late to the party. Apologies if this was covered. Is this done easier using the effect rack versus a pre-fader send? You could do it either way. You could add you could set the chain. I could have just sent it, put it in a return track. I made a new return track here, and on that, sorry, not no audio track. I wanted a new return track, and on the return track and the new return track, I could put the compressor with the EQ the same way, and then just use the dry wet knob, not the dry wet, the send knob here to I got some automation in here. I want to delete it. The send knob, which would be B, if it was filled in B, to kind of do the blending. Same difference. There's no big difference between that and the other way. Either way, whichever you're most comfortable with. But this setup here kind of leads me to the next kind of thing that you can do with a track once it's in in a finished sort of exported way. This is more of the, I would say, creative mastering sort of thing. Let's turn this one down, and let's look at another way of approaching this. So I'm gonna, the same way, I'm gonna start with an EQ. Let's see, get an EQ in here, and basically I want to put this EQ in a rack, and I want to take this and copy this chain 3 times. Now I could do it 3 times, or I could do it 4 times, or I could do it 5 times, but you'll see why 3 times makes sense to start. What we're doing is it's called split frequency processing, where we're gonna take the first EQ and maybe take a low pass filter and bring that down, say to, I don't know, let's see what 400 hertz looks like. That's a little too high. Let's do 200. Actually, let's do the subs. So that would be like 150. So that'll take care of the subs. maybe a little less, maybe 130, 140 is good. And then the middle chain will take a low and a high pass filter. Actually, to create a band pass filter. And we'll set the the high pass filter to 140, so to pick up for where the other one left off. And this one here will go to 2K. Let's see what happens at 2K. Let's see. Yeah, that's good. So this is going to cover the mid bands, and you could set this up the way you like. You decide. And then the last one will be, see the first. That actually was the first one. This is going to have to be the last one, which is kind of backwards from what I wanted, but fine, no big deal. This one will have to be set at around 2K. So this is high frequencies, this is mid frequencies, this is low frequencies. And we're basically making a crossover to get these frequencies split up. Now, there are some problems with doing this. And the biggest problem is the fact that since filtering is a function of phase, the phase cancellations that happen in between the cuts here, they could cause some phase problems right at the edge here at the cutoffs. But we'll eat that, because what we're going to do is just have some fun with this. So let's see what the my reader says. Custom kilohertz multipass. Yes, multipass, right? Bitwig has a three-way split device where you could just drop it in there and you're ready to go. Let's see. Devala asks, would you use a similar extreme New York parallel compression technique while mixing as well on the 2-bus? You can use this wherever you like. These are things that should or should not. Now that we're broken up into 3 frequencies, I'm going to be able to do things in every frequency. So let's say on the low end, I want to do, I don't know. Let's see what I'm going to do to the low end. So let's just solo that low end. And then I could maybe, I don't know, I'll compress it a bit. Let's add a little compression with the glue compressor. So I can maybe just add some harmonics to that. Maybe I'll add some other plugins. Maybe even we can do like maybe the Poltech would be nice to add to that. Right, so now I have a low end that has something extra. Let's go to the mid range. Let's see what we're going to do in the mid. And this part, I'm going to get crazy now. Let's do something really out there. Let's grab like let's try some overdrive. Why not? Let's take some overdrive, throw that in there. And let's just find some interesting frequency to drive. And let's just add that in there like that. And let's see what that sounds like now. Let's see how that much just changed it. Let's go to the high end. And there's stereo here, but not as much as I want it. So maybe just on the high parts, I'm going to add a little bit of the Haas effect. And I'll do that with a delay. I'll drop a delay in here. And maybe lower the time here, lower the feedback. Get the filter out of the way. And basically the Haas effect wants me to like have one side come at my one ear before the other. So the sound comes from here and then comes here before it comes here. So I delay one off the other, and it'll make it bigger. It'll make it expand in size. So you could hear with it and without it. So without it, it's right in the center, and with it, it expands to the sides. And so we just have Haas effect right on the high end. So only the highs. Oh, and I put this overdrive in the wrong place. Look at this. I messed up with this. So hold on. Gotta recover here. Because I was supposed to put this overdrive and this. That's why I was hearing compression. I was like, where's that coming from? And that Pultec doesn't need to be there. That Pultec needs to be on this other chain here. So the Pultec is on the low end. And okay, so let's play that now. So not only the mids have the drive from the overdrive, right? And only the high end has the Haas effect on it. Now you could see it becoming a radically different track, and I could keep this going. I could even do crazier things in it, but I mean, once you have this setup, you could do whatever you want in individual frequencies. Now, this is what people do with like a multi-band compressor, which is they'll take a device that's set up to be broken up into like bands the way that we've broken up here, and be able to compress different bands differently than others. Mark is here. Mark is one of my students. We just got finished with an immersive, which went for about a month. Oh, it was about 4 weeks, I guess, of classes 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. And Mark says a lot of great tips around super high to join the February class. I hope to learn a lot from the guru. Oh, yeah, great. Mark is great. I'd be very happy to see you in the class. Come and join Mark and take the class with me, the mixing and mastering class in February. William Mindreader says it can be cool to process a 303 TB303 as well. Anything you want could be. You don't have to see it as its whole. You could break it up into its frequencies, and you could deal with its frequencies differently. Let's do something wackier and crazier. We have overdrive here, but let's grab something else. Let's grab a modulation effect. Let's try a flanger just for right after for a mid-range flanger going on in here. And let's try wet that a little bit. So there's a little bit of flanging happening in the mid-range, and only in the mid-range. And maybe we'll put it before the overdrive, because that makes a difference. You got to try different things, right? And now it has this swooshy mid-range that it didn't have before. Put a little less in there. But once again, I'm not saying this sounds better, but it's giving you the power to change it, this track in so many different ways. And so when you're mastering or trying to find some way to do a creative approach to working with tracks that are already finished, you can split the frequencies and go for it. Have some fun. So let's see, Davala says, my ODD gets triggered instantly. Name your chain, please. Okay. I don't know what to call this chain. So let's say that, I don't know. What should I name this chain? ODD. This is my ODD chain. Okay. William Mindreader says, Johnny Kingston III. Here. Oh, yeah. John H. Kingston III is here, and he's saying hello to him. Great. So, yeah, we're running out of time for today. I got to a lot of the things I wanted to get to. There were some other things I wanted to do. I wanted to do dual stereo compressors, which is interesting. And I wanted to do a little more about mid-side processing. But we could always, we always have next week. We can always meet again. I will be here next week, next Friday at 1 p.m., and I will, guide you through this as well as I can. Please stay in contact with me. Keep on sending your questions in. Abe at 343labs.com. That's where you could send me questions directly. Abe at 343labs.com. So that I can, answer them on the air or write them in the comment section. And if you'd like to see something, me deal with something, some sort of topic, please let me know, because I'm always thinking about, I wonder what they want to hear. I wonder what I can do for them. Well, yeah, let's get you guys to tell me, and I'll just do what you say. I'll be your monkey. Okay, so let's end the show for today. Once again, 343 TV. We're here every day at 1 p.m. except for Sundays. And come to our website, 343labs.com. Take a class with us. You won't regret it. And the giveaway is on tomorrow's show, on John Selway's show. There should be a link in the description to sign up for the giveaway, and it's one free pro session for you of your choice. And with that, I guess I will leave you and talk to you next week.